Greetings, everyone. Welcome everyone to our Lake Stewardship Workshop as we continue our series on lake protection success stories in the Prairie Lake communities. I'm Jim Irwin, Chair of the Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve. I'll be hosting tonight's workshop along with Dennis Hodgson, who will be assisting with the Q&A. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that the Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve is in Treaty 2 and 4 territories of the Anishinaabe people, and say that we respect and share their all-important teachings that water is a sacred gift, essential for all life. Riding Mountain Biosphere Reserve has been around since 1986, bringing people together to share their knowledge for the well-beings of our communities. In this respect, we're pleased to have the participation in our Manitoba Healthy Prairie Lakes Network share their lake protection success stories. Our workshop tonight continues on the topic of protecting our prairie lakes from aquatic invasive species. And David Cairns will tell us the story of Gull Lake's AIS protection measures, and followed by Daryl who will talk about Watercraft AIS inspection and decontamination. Each of the presentations, as I mentioned, will be followed by a short Q&A. We are pleased to have David Cairns tell us Gull Lake's AIS protection story. David is a resident of Gull Lake and president of the Gull Lake Basin Management Board, and he has been very instrumental and influential in the implementation of the protection measures he'll be discussing tonight. I would now like to invite David to start his presentation. David?
Great, thanks everybody. I'm David Cairns. I'm the president of the Gull Lake Basin Management Board. We have a great program that we're going to share a little bit of information with you guys tonight just to share some successes. I know there's some people on some other lakes that are very discouraged about their prevention of zebra mussels, and hopefully our story here is going to help you determine how your program is going to go and be as successful as we have been. So we're all here on these workshops to help each other out and give each other some ideas. So hopefully there's some good questions that come after my little presentation here. So Gull Lake Basin Management Board, I'm the presenter this evening. You can see, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving around, but over between Highway 59 and Highway 12 and Stead Road is Gull Lake, just a little area over here. Gull Lake is a small, densely populated lake located about 45 minutes north of Winnipeg with about 300 seasonal and permanent properties. It's bordered by Highway 59, 12, and Stead Road. You can see just an aerial Google Maps view of that. So our AIS prevention success story. In the summer of 2014, the GLBNB had several board members who were aware of the risk that could lay ahead. There was a new threat in the Red River that could be coming to all waters in Manitoba. Questions were asked and fears were raised for good reason, as time would tell. What can we do? And the research began. These are just rocks, but anything in any waters, as you guys all know, zebra mussels will attach to and destroy. So the board came up with some education plans with help from the province of Manitoba. The program was created. Those education sessions were held throughout the season. The board at the time tried their best to spread the word to everybody. The question then became, is education good enough? As the people of Gull Lake are well informed, but it was a public lake, so that raised other concerns. The people that come from all around the province to use Gull Lake, a lot of them came here and had no zebra mussel education, wasn't informed about the provincial laws. There was a lot of fears from lake users that the lake would become infected. So they had to up their program from just education. You could see that we have some help with the province. This particular picture is a St. Clement's open house where The zebra mussel specialist, Candace Parks, and I attended and put on a little table there with some information handouts and things. Anyways, we've posted these small signs are all around the lake at every launch, or sorry, we only have one launch, but every entrance to the lake, we have some 4-foot by 6-foot signs with basically the same information on them. We've got some phone numbers and stuff for us to get some information if people are looking at it. The proximity to the lake from Lake Winnipeg's closest boat launch is 3 kilometers. On windy days, there's a number of people who come over from that launch and try to launch at Gull Lake because the waves are too big on Lake Winnipeg. A lot of day users. So when that happened, we called the province and asked them for some help. The time the province of Manitoba was setting up the inspection and decontamination locations throughout the province. As it turns out, they had only had 5 decontamination stations. So when we asked for one to be closer to us, we were turned down. We requested the province put a wash station close to our lake in the Lake Winnipeg launch. Again, we were turned down. So an emergency meeting was held, and the request to close our lake, Gull Lake, until we can get a plan in place was granted. Getting the plan together was a little bit harder than everybody thought. The deadline passed, and the RM received complaints from local residents who are not lakefront owners, and they decided to remove the gate, leaving it wide open. A lot of people didn't understand why the RM of Alexander did that, and a lot of people understood why they did it. There was a lot of criticism, a lot of bad publicity on everybody's part. So the panic sets in again, as there's no gate or anything. Gears start turning as another barrier is put in front of the board being successful. But when Gull Lakers put their minds together as a team, solutions become easier and easier. So everybody around here is very good with supporting the community and supporting the help. And they bought a high temperature, low pressure decontamination unit and began to get some training going on. So during the middle of the process, many of the board members resigned. Some people's times were up. Some people just resigned from their positions for various reasons. So a new board was voted in. One previous board member remained. We created a volunteer program and began training the volunteers. So we can now perform self-decontaminations on most watercrafts at this time. And a new plan for the access was created and presented to the RM of Alexander. After several updates and meetings, the plan was accepted and they returned our gate, which was great news for everybody. We had a great plan in place to ensure that whoever wanted to use the lake was able to use the lake at any time that they wanted to. So we were able to put up the gate and prevent anybody from just launching without. So yeah, they returned the gate. Great news, we put that up. There's a picture of the gate. When there's nobody there, there's a phone number that they can call, and we have volunteers that go out and open the gate or inspect a watercraft, whatever it needs to be done at the time. There's just a picture of what we do is we block the roadway and direct everybody onto the lawn there, and then we'll do a decontamination just on the grass, which is about between 300 and 400 feet from the water's edge. The requirement is, I believe, 100 to 125 feet from water's edge, so we're well away from the water or the edge where we're dropping the water. Just a picture of a decontamination being performed. So a couple of years go by and the volunteers start to dwindle. People just got tired of being the same volunteers, doing the same thing. A lot of people started dropping off and they felt that they didn't have the help that we needed. So the Gull Lake Ratepayers Association, which is another board out here, more of a social committee board, they provided employee funding for 1 year. And combined with the volunteers, we were still able to maintain our plan. We applied funding from the Canada Summer Jobs Program, and it was granted. We had enough for 4 employees. So the plan continues and works well. So the next year, the funding is granted, but only for 1 employee. So back to the drawing board we went. We're scrambling for funding. A property tax special levy was suggested. We applied to the municipal board and it was approved. So it was determined that we need $100 per property on the lake to maintain the launch plan. So the RM of St. Clement steps up to give us $25 per property, lowering our tax levy to $75. So every cottage owner out here provides $75 on their tax bill. So part of our program, we have a SEAL program similar to the province. We created that to speed up the triage process for the lake users who want to use it. A non-reusable steel cable is applied to the trailer and their boat when they leave. If it's intact when they return, there's no question they're allowed into the water right away. So there's a picture of 3 seals here. The green one is the one that's applied at a provincial wash station or provincial decontamination station. Once the watercraft is decontaminated by the province, they'll apply a green sticker or a green seal and give the boat owner paperwork to go with it. So if somebody shows up at our launch and they've got a green seal and the paperwork to match it, then we accept that as long as the seal is intact and allow them in the water. The red seal is a province of Manitoba seal as well. If that seal is on a boat, it is illegal to cut. It can only be cut by the province of Manitoba at a decontamination station. If somebody shows up with one of those, then it's been put on their boat by either the RCMP or another station that for whatever reason they can perform the decontamination. The blue seal on the top is what we put on. You can see it's considerably thicker. It's a lot harder to cut off. You need bolt cutters to cut it off, and it's 3 feet long. So we can find an area to the trailer that's not really removable. As they talked about last week on the webinars, the whole program for the province of Manitoba, everybody is an honor system, and you rely on people to tell the truth of where they've been. Nothing is foolproof. Even our seal program, if somebody works hard enough, they could take the hook on the front of the boat off where we seal it with bolts or with pliers and replace it after. It's a lot of work. If someone's really going to go to that trouble to do something like that, then there's nothing we could do to prevent that. But everybody we've seen come through has been very good, very honest. There's a few people we have to send to the provincial decontamination station because we're not capable of doing the decontamination, or there's something really wrong with the boat that we're just not comfortable doing it. But basically the seal programs work very well for us. If people are leaving the lake and they request a seal, we put it on. The first year we tried charging for it. We found a lot of people didn't like it. For the cost of the seals, we decided to just give it to them, just to help us out a little bit. And it did speed things up if there was a lineup for people to launch their boats. So we continue to apply for funding. We asked the province for a station closer to us constantly. The province is advised there just is no funding for something like that. So we're stuck with 5 decontamination stations around for a while. In the meantime, we're doing the best we can to prevent zebra mussels from coming to Gull Lake. We've been successful so far. I think that you get a lot of comments from several people who say, well, it's only a matter of time, and that's very possible. But if we can prevent it for 5 more years, and during that 5 years they come up with a chemical or something that can kill the zebra mussels, then we've prevented it and we've done the job we're trying to do. So today we have enough funding for 3 years to maintain the program with the gate open from 7 in the morning until 10 p.m. in the summer months. Right now we're looking pretty good, as long as we can have staff, as long as we can hire people. Students around the area, they want to work, so we're willing to hire them. There's just a picture of the boat being backed in. There's another one of those signs that's right at the boat launch. At the end of the year, we put up a closed for the season sign. Basically, once the weather gets a little bit too cold and we can't prevent the equipment from freezing, there's still a phone number on there if somebody needs to get on the lake or get a boat off, or somebody wants to go ice fishing. Needs to have the gate open, the number's there to call, and we have volunteers that could open it throughout the season. That's basically the middle of October. The provincial wash stations are open until middle of November. So if somebody was to come here and we weren't sure about the watercraft they want to launch, they could still go. For us, it would be Selkirk is the closest one, Selkirk Park. They go there and they can get decontamination over there, come back with a green seal, and we'll let them in. Pretty much the end of my show. So I don't know if anybody has any questions that they've sent in to Jim. I could try and answer them.
We have a question here for you, David. What was the source of the funding for the decontamination unit that you folks purchased?
That was actually a little bit before my time. I know it was around $12,000 for the whole program. Is quite a bit cheaper now. I believe that they just raised that through the RM and other funding that we already had. So now that tax levy that we have, that included a replacement unit and a spare. So we have one unit, we have a spare that can be purchased at any time. There's some sitting on the warehouse floor. The funding for the replacements have come from the levy.
What are there any AIS protocols that you follow for the ice fishing activity?
Basically, we refer everybody to the province of Manitoba ice fishing websites. The AIS websites has information on there for ice fishers. Zebra mussels apparently can't be transferred after -10. Anybody who phones wanting to go ice fishing now, we just confirm with them that they understand that. They understand the laws for the zebra mussels. They understand the transfer of bait laws. Give them the little be respectful to our lake lecture. We're not preventing anyone from going on. We just want to talk to them prior to going on so that we can ensure that they understand what we're doing and how we're trying to protect the lake and every other lake. And most people who phone know. We get a lot of negative feedback on Facebook that really is coming from nowhere. I take all the phone calls. The number is call forwarded to me. And last year there was Facebook posts saying that we weren't letting people on the lake. I received 2 phone calls through the whole season and 1 phone call from the conservation officer who I answered on the first ring. And he said that somebody said they couldn't get a hold of me, and I didn't know what to tell him. I said, I answered you on the first ring, I answer every call, and it never went anywhere. So basically I've had 2 calls this year and 2 calls last year. So anybody who wants to come ice fishing is welcome to. Just want to talk to them before they come out.
How many people have you trained all told there, David?
Well, through volunteers, there's probably through the years of our program, I'd say easily 50, 60 volunteers know how to do the decontaminations. We have volunteers who weren't comfortable doing them, doing the decontaminations. They would just come and support the other volunteers. We basically told them that it didn't matter if you're not capable of doing it, still volunteer. We need people that can just talk and occupy the people coming over to use the launch while we do the decontamination. It's great to get information out there. A lot of people have a lot of questions, but they also don't have a lot of time, and they want you just to do the decontamination and get it over with. So if you have a second person there who can just give out some information, finds it speeds it up for them. They don't feel like they're just sitting there bored waiting. So we have several volunteers, and then for the past couple summers, we've had 4 employees working there who are trained in the decontaminations.
How long does it take to train a group that you would intend to have work this season?
We do a lot of on-the-job training, so it's going to go over a couple of days. There's a few different training sessions that you could have. There's one where the province will come out, and I believe that's where we all met. I came to you guys with Candace one year, and we did that training session there, and they do a very similar one. They offered to do that every year. We're pretty much past the volunteers needing to be trained part, so we don't take them up on that. But they're always willing to come out and help us with whatever they need to give us the literature and everything else. But the training for an actual person to do the decontamination, I'd say, is 1 full day, and then on the job, as you know, we wait for the boats to come through, and you kind of learn as you go.
How many boats would you inspect in a season there?
I haven't done the paperwork to track it. We do have all the tracking from last season. It averages about, the inspections average around 10 to 11 per day throughout the hot days, like throughout the summer season. Not all of them are decontaminated, but they're all triaged and checked and looking for that standing water.
Roughly what percentage of them would require decontamination from your experience?
I would say probably 25% of them we do the decontamination. Anything with standing water, we'll do it. There should be no standing water though. I mean, if people are pulling it on the highway with their plug removed, there should be no standing water. So people are pretty understanding if we tell them we need to do a decontamination.
Is FWEF funding for groups to purchase decontamination equipment?
I don't know what EF funding is, but like our funding came from us, so I'm not sure what. I don't believe there's any governments you can apply for funding for decontamination purchasing. We use the Green Team and Canada Summer Jobs Program to pay for our employees.
That's just about all of the questions, David. I would certainly like to thank everyone for the questions you contributed. Do you want to make a last comment there?
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Anybody who wants to get a hold of us, you can go on www.glbmb.com. Send me an email through there. If there's some questions that people have, or they're looking for some information on setting up their own programs, my pleasure to help. And thanks for letting me do the presentation today.
Thank you very much, David, for an excellent, informative presentation. And we really appreciate you participating and sharing your stories there. We'll now move on to the second presentation by Daryl Cairns on Watercraft AIS inspection and decontamination. As you know from last week's workshop, Daryl lives on the shore of Sandy Lake and has been involved in the Biosphere's AIS awareness campaign and has taken a leading role in protecting the waters of Sandy Lake. He heads up the Sandy Lake Water Protection Working Group, Inc., which is focused on both nutrient loading problems and AIS threats. Today, Daryl will be delving deeper into the details of Watercraft AIS inspections and decontaminations. Daryl?
Thank you, Jim. This presentation is going to talk about how we do watercraft inspections for AIS and what's involved in decontaminations. We don't actually do decontaminations at Sandy Lake. We're fortunate enough to have access or have a partnership with Riding Mountain National Park, and we are able to send our high-risk boats to them for decontamination. There are 4 topics that can help reduce the likelihood of your waters being invaded by an aquatic invasive species. The first thing you must do is to build public awareness. This is vital, and it's been covered in the Lake Stewardship Workshop number 2. This presentation covers watercraft AIS inspections and decontaminations. The 4th topic will be covered in an upcoming presentation. We're going to try and answer these 3 questions regarding the watercraft inspections. Why do we inspect watercraft? How do we inspect them, and what are we looking for? Well, it's pretty obvious. We want to reduce our risk, and we don't want to be invaded by aquatic invasive species. On the left lower picture, you can see a handful of zebra mussels. To the right is a single zebra mussel. They're about the size of your thumbnail. And in the middle, you'll see a picture of zebra mussel veligers. These are the babies, and they are not visible to the naked eye. How do we inspect? Well, we talk to people that want to launch their boat. We assess their level of awareness, and if their watercraft is high risk, that's what we're trying to find out. We're trying to assess where their watercraft has been. If the level of their AIS awareness is weak, we'll supply them with these 3 documents, and we'll answer any questions they have. this particular piece of information it answers most of the questions that they're likely to have, and it's available online at the friendsofsandylake.com documents page. This is the 2019 Manitoba AIS offenses and fines document that we produced. It's also available at friendsofsandylake.com in the documents page. You will have to scroll down to find these two documents that I've just mentioned. This document is similar to the document that David mentioned in the earlier presentation, but this one is for the summer season. This is the open water season document, and it's available on the manitoba.ca/stop AIS website. It's an excellent document that tells people what they must do based on the circumstances that they are in. It will help them decide what to do. So how do we inspect? Well, we use a form that we've developed. It's developed specifically for our lake, and it can be modified for other lakes, but essentially we record the inspection on this sheet of paper. It's printed both sides, and we'll determine if a watercraft is high risk based on the triage and the physical inspection sections of this form. This is what that form looks like in greater detail. This form is available by request only because it's something that you probably want to, if you're going to use this form, you probably want to have some modifications made to it. After we've inspected the boat, we're going to find one of two things. Either they're a high-risk watercraft or they're not. If they're not, then we thank them for their time and wish them a great day on the water. If we do have a high-risk boat, we inform the individual that their watercraft must be decontaminated before they launch it into another water body. Now, that said, if they just wanted to go back and go into the water they came from, that's okay. We're most concerned about finding water because villagers can survive in water or in things that are damp. We normally find water in the engine cooling system, but we only consider it to be high risk if the watercraft has been in a high risk area within the last 30 days. And this could be from the United States, Ontario, or Manitoba in an AIS control zone. If we have to send a boat away, as I explained earlier, in our case, we have been able to make arrangements for them to get a decontamination nearby. If they need to go to the nearest provincial inspection / decontamination station, in our case, it would be a 2.5 to 3 hour trip for them, and they are very unlikely to do that. If the Riding Mountain National Park ever says that we can't send our watercraft there, we would have to get a decontamination station going. When we're inspecting a boat, we are looking for water in the boat, the engine, the trailer, wet items such as ropes or personal flotation devices. We also look for attached zebra mussels on the boat, the hull, the engine, the trailer, and the tow vehicle. And so far, we have never found one. Most people don't leave their boats in the water for any length of time. You need to leave your boat in the water for about 12 hours. After that time, you're likely to have zebra mussels attached to your hull. But so far, we haven't found anything like that. There are 6 AIS control zones in Manitoba. This map is from the provincial manitoba.ca/stop AIS website. In our area, we're thinking we're going to get boats from Lake Winnipeg or the Red River, but they could come from the north as well. We could see some boats from, people who have gone fishing up north and they're coming back. And we've had a few like that. So now we're into decontaminations. Well, how can you get your boat decontaminated? This is the section we're in. So nature can decontaminate your boat. What is decontamination all about? When is a decontamination necessary, and who can conduct one? And can you do it yourself? That's what we're going to talk about. The picture at the bottom shows a provincial watercraft inspection station, and the machine that you see is the unit that they use to supply hot water and under low pressure and high pressure to do the decontamination. They collect the water in that yellow, I guess you would say, tarp that's on the ground, and they reuse it. They put up inspection station signs, and they're usually on both sides of the road, so you need to stop at these. You can get a fine if you go by without stopping. Next slide. So nature can decontaminate your boat. If you expose your boat to, and your water-related equipment to temperatures of -10 degrees Celsius for 3 consecutive days, that will kill zebra mussels, and I believe all the other AIS that we've got in the province. In our climate, your watercraft and water-related equipment is most likely decontaminated by nature because it is overwintered in the cold. If you keep it in a heated garage all winter, then it'll be more than 30 days. But at the beginning of the season, we don't have to do very much regarding decontaminations. Well, how do they do a decontamination? Well, it involves a series of procedures to kill and then remove the aquatic invasive species. Hot water, that's 60 degrees Celsius, at low pressure at close range, is used to kill them. The idea is to heat the hull up or whatever you're decontaminating and keep it at that temperature for about 10 seconds. After that, you can use high pressure water to remove any attached zebra mussels that weren't removed during the initial low pressure hot water killing step. When is decontamination required? If you have water-related equipment that is not completely dry, you have to decontaminate it before you place it in another body of water. Also, if you have been in a control zone, then your watercraft and any water-related equipment that has been in the water has to be decontaminated. The procedure for doing this is well documented in the province's new website. Who can conduct a decontamination? You can go to a provincial watercraft inspection station, and they will do it for you. You can do it on your own, following the step-by-step procedure that's available online at the link below. Quite frankly, the most reliable, simplest, easiest way to decontaminate your watercraft trailer and water-related equipment is to take it to the provincial watercraft inspection / decontamination station when they're open and let them do it. It is by far the simplest thing to do. They don't even charge you for it. You may have to figure out when they're open, and that's available online at their website. You can do self-decontamination of water-related equipment. This is covered in Schedule C of the province's decontamination webpage, and it can be found at the manitoba.ca/stopais website. It is a table, basically, and it's quite well done. Now, self-decontamination of your watercraft is possible. by following the instructions on the province's website. In my opinion, this is not practical for most people, as it requires specialized equipment and it requires an appropriate location. If you decide to do this, the province has a real good website on decontamination. I show that at the end on the question pages. Basically, you're going to need some specialized equipment that you may not have access to. The first thing is a water source that can deliver enough hot water at 60 degrees Celsius to decontaminate your boat. You also need a low pressure and possibly a high pressure nozzle. You should have a digital infrared thermometer to verify the temperature of the area being decontaminated reaches 60 degrees Celsius. And in order to decontaminate your motor, you're going to need a water feed boat motor flusher, something like muffs or a fake-a-lake device, whatever's appropriate for your boat. You'll also need an appropriate location. This decontamination must be done on land away from another water body. You can't run that water into a drainage ditch or a storm sewer or a roadside ditch. Once you've completed your decontamination, your watercraft and water-related equipment and your trailer must be completely dry prior to launching in another body of water, according to the instructions that they have online. You should note that a domestic hot water system is normally set to around 50 degrees Celsius, and it can only maintain this temperature for a short period of time. It's not the appropriate device to use. And if you're doing it in your driveway, you're probably letting the water run into the storm sewer. And the last part is you can't use a car wash to decontaminate your boat. The water temperatures are not adequate, and they will not kill the zebra mussels during the decontamination process. This can result in spreading zebra mussels to the car wash infrastructure, to municipal infrastructure, or to a water body through a drainage system such as a storm sewer. This is a very bad idea. And I guess we're ready for questions. Now, you can go to the websites that were on the page that was just taken down to get more information. Anyway, I've probably said those page references enough. So I guess questions are next.
Does Sandy Lake have a sticker system like the Riding Mountain National Park, or tags like Gull Lake for boats that are back and forth to the lake?
No, we don't. First of all, Gull Lake, the way they operate, they can lock their gate and prevent people from going in. We don't have that ability at this point, and probably will never get that. Could we put something on the boat as the exit? Yes, and we could avoid an inspection if the cable is still on their boat tying it to the trailer. Like we said regarding the questions we ask and so on, we inspected about 1,550 boats this water season in 2020, and the vast majority of the people that are coming to launch their boat are repeat customers that we see fairly frequently, and we give them the nod. We ask them one question basically, and if they haven't launched anywhere else, they're good to go. Riding Mountain National Park has a really good program where they give you a voucher, and after you've passed a course, their objective is to inform people of how zebra mussels could be a problem and what their part is in reducing the risk. And once they pass that course, they get a voucher. They can take the voucher along with their boat to a watercraft inspection station that's located right at the boat cove at Clear Lake. And what they do is the watercraft inspection happens, and if necessary, there's a decontamination done. At the end of it all, the individual gets a sticker placed on their boat and agrees not to launch anywhere else, not to launch outside of the Riding Mountain National Park. And if they do that, they don't have to go through the inspection line. So we don't really have that kind of ability. I don't think the province has anything that would get people to take a short course on how to behave with their watercraft. It would be wonderful if they had a nice carrot to give them.
I think we have another question that is the Fisheries Fund, and the question was just asking if it is where you apply for funding specifically for equipment for decontaminating.
The Fish and Wildlife Enhancement Fund, I don't think they will support an application that requests funding for a decontamination unit. We have applied to the Fish and Wildlife Enhancement Fund a couple of times and been turned down because they don't consider this a project that they would fund. We never asked them for a decontamination station, though. We asked them for funds to operate. If you were to ask for funds to help you run an awareness program, they have funded that. The fellows up north, Chris Smith, they were funded to help them produce material and distribute it. Unfortunately, they accept applications and then they don't tell you until after September that you've been funded. So it's really not going to happen for the season if you were to ask them for money this year. You would maybe get it next year.
What's been the experience at Sandy Lake, Daryl, with a number of boats attempting a launch and a number that seemingly needed decontamination over the past couple of years?
Okay, in the first year we were inspecting boats, it was done by volunteers. I'm not sure how many boats we inspected, but it was nowhere near the number of boats that we've done in 2019 and 2020. But there were 4 boats that needed to be decontaminated, and they were sent to Riding Mountain National Park. At that time, we had the ability to do that. And then we asked again in 2019 and in 2020. In 2019, I think we inspected about 1,300 boats, and there were 5 that had to be decontaminated. In 2020, we inspected about 1,550, and there were 7 boats that needed to be decontaminated. We don't see that many boats that need to be decontaminated. Now, we believe that we are being told the truth when people come to launch their boats. We don't have a gate on, so we're not as near the invaded areas as someone, say, like Gull Lake. So they inspect more than we do, but that could be because they have a lot more boats that are coming from Lake Winnipeg than we do.
We've got not so much a question, but a comment that wondering if it might be time to attempt again to seek funding from the Fish and Wildlife Enhancement Fund and see where that goes for a decontamination unit for this area.
That's a good suggestion. At the moment, we don't need that at Sandy Lake. We would have to take on a certain amount of risk if we were to decontaminate boats. We would like to avoid that. I would say that if we would help anyone in the area with a presentation or an application if they wanted to go ahead with that. For example, if someone from Russell or Rossburn wanted to take this on, it's a lot farther for their boaters to travel if they make an arrangement with Riding Mountain National Park, which they may or may not be able to do. And certainly, we would help with that. If we had a situation where Riding Mountain National Park decided that they would no longer help us with decontaminations, then we would definitely be doing that.
In the Sandy Lake experience, what were some of the common reasons why high-risk boats appeared, or what were the cause of their being high risk, I guess would be the...
In almost every case, it was they came from a control zone. Now, some of the individuals realized this. There were a couple of cases where people were fishing at Grand Rapids, and the inspection station there was closed. The province of Manitoba has 6 of these inspection stations. One of them is located at Grand Rapids. And when they came back, because they knew what we were doing, they asked us how they could get decontaminated, and we sent them to Clear Lake. When we send a boat to Clear Lake, we phone ahead to make sure they're going to be open, and we're interested in knowing that they actually got there, were decontaminated, and when they return, we know about it.
If my boat were totally dry, and as determined by the inspection people, having come from a control zone require me to still go through decontamination?
If your boat was out of the water and dried and was out of the water and had not been launched anywhere else for 30 days, we would not have to decontaminate you.
Another one here that's a combination comment, I think, maybe more. The federal government has 2 programs that we're aware of that involves people taking an online quiz, and once you pass, you get a certificate authorizing you to access a service or use a device that has restrictions attached to it, i.e. drones. The province could work with the feds to develop a program for boaters to get a certificate designating them as being AIS aware that could be presented to an inspection station, giving them a pass to access the lake, like a fast track similar to a Riding Mountain program. That's a comment.
Okay, that's not a bad idea, except that I don't think we would give them a pass. We would be looking at their boat and probably triaging them in a similar fashion. It's great if they know what we're talking about and what their role is. And if they, for example, if they got an inspection at Headingley when they were coming our way, they would have a piece of paper and a green tie wrap, like you saw in the previous presentation. But they're not promising in that course never to launch at another lake or to stay out of control zones, probably. I would have to think about that. It's an interesting idea. Certainly, you can get your safe boaters certificate that way, I believe.
Yeah, the comment was followed up with an additional comment that it would help perhaps with lakes that can't hire staff or enough volunteers at the time. A certificate would have to be put on the dash of the car.
Anything that improves awareness is a good thing. And if you don't have anyone at a boat launch, I guess that is certainly better than having a person that is unaware.
That's all the questions and the comments, Daryl. That was excellent.
So thank you very much. And it was a pleasure.
Well, thank you very much, Daryl, for another excellent presentation. And thank you too, Dennis, for your kind assistance. Invitations to our next workshop will be sent out to those on our mailing list and will also be posted on our Manitoba Healthy Prairie Lakes Network Facebook page. If you're not on our mailing list, you can email me at ridingmountain@gmail.com and I'll put you on our mailing list. Good evening, everyone. And thank you all for joining us. Happy New Year to all of you and your families, and stay safe.